it seems like we talk about it quite a bit here on this program about special teams and the kick return and punt return game. We all know I'm a huge fan of Brandon Tate. Love Brandon Tate on this roster. But what we're seeing here in OTAs so far this week, some other guys returning kicks and punts. Jeff Scott, one of the guys that they brought in as a college free agent, returning some punts. Maybe possibly Geo Mickey. I mean, it's something that when you look at the Bengals roster as a whole, you've got a defense that's arguably one of the best in the NFL, right? You've got an offense that at times can play like the best offense in the NFL. And then you have the return game, the special teams. Now, we know Nugent, solid field goal kicker. You don't have to worry there. Huber, one of the best punters in the league. You don't have to worry about that. The one area this team just has like nothing. There's nothing there. Is the return game. So where can they improve there?
I hear you. So yes, in the return game, it could get better. Hobson kind of, rained on the parade a little bit when he said, Tate's pretty solid. Like he might not be the most exciting, but he puts up pretty good numbers, and his average does okay. But yeah, you kind of want that. When your team is an 8-8 team, a solid kick returner is probably fine. But when your team is pushing that next step, you want that exciting guy back there, like that wild card that could be the one that at any given point could break one. Pac-Man Jones kind of gave you that at times. Bernard Scott kind of gave you that at times. Tate's not that guy. I could 2 times last year he had decent returns that got you excited. Other than that, 10 yards, 12 yards, nothing huge. He wasn't fumbling, but
returning kickoffs that are on the end line that no business returning.
True, some running backwards sometimes, like dumb stuff like that. I mean, I really don't think Gio's going to be returning kicks. No. I mean, I just don't see that happening. But the Jeff Scott one's pretty interesting. That's something we talked about. And if he can show enough, and he's one of those guys that has the speed and the shiftiness that could make it exciting. So, absolutely, I think they're going to take every possible chance they can all the way up until the regular season to see what other kind of exciting things they're going to get. They kind of did it last year, and we were left scratching our heads because I think that Sanzenbacher did a pretty good job at times of showing what he could do, on punt returns, and then never sniffed it in the regular season. So, yes, I mean, I think it's great that they're doing that, and I hope that someone just dazzles them because as hurt as you will be if Tate's not the guy, I think that maybe the Bengals could use a little more excitement in that phase of the game.
And you look at the early 90s, you had the Dallas Cowboys who were doing things down there with the triplets, but they had special teams guys. They had Deion Sanders at one point doing things on special teams. You look at the Bears a couple years ago with Devin Hester. Devin Hester probably still could come in and be the punt and kick returner for this team right now, and it would be an upgrade, clearly. But this is the one area that in the Marvin Lewis era that there just has not been that X factor that could change games that you have to game plan against. Are you telling me that the special teams coordinators for the Browns, Steelers, and Ravens are looking at our punt return game and saying, we don't need to worry about that? I mean, it's a joke.
Yeah, and you guys criticized Hobson's comment about Tate being solid. I would never call Tate solid. I'd call him relatively steady.
Average.
And that's kind of what I mean by steady. I do think there were a couple of returns he had that were crucial for the Bengals last year in terms of field position and whatnot. I did see a couple of good returns, but overall, not all that impressive, and hasn't been that impressive basically since 2011 when he first joined the team. So I think what hurts Brandon Tate with this team is the devaluation of kickoff return men in the league because of the new rules with that, and the fact that is Tate's only role with this team. He doesn't contribute on offense. He's not like a number 3 or 4 wide receiver where you're comfortable putting him in a kick return, punt return role, and maybe rolling the dice on, hey, he could get injured in this, but he can also contribute on offense. He does nothing for you on offense, and maybe the Bengals say, hey, you know what? Maybe we mix and match 2 or 3 guys for punt returns and kick returns that can contribute on offense and or defense, maybe we shed some dead weight in Brandon Tate there and go that route. Maybe it's Sonsenbacher on punts and Kobe Hamilton on kickoffs. Maybe it's Pac-Man Jones all around if Leon Hall is healthy and Darquez Denard shows that he can come in and contribute right away. Maybe Adam Jones is that guy that can, you knock him down to the number 4 cornerback spot and, you have him do both. I mean, there are a lot of different options you could do with this team. Maybe this kid Scott is an answer. I don't know. I think they just need to kind of take off the Brandon Tate blinders, if you will, and explore some other options. And maybe you see things in camp and you say, hey, you know what, Tate is our guy and we'll keep him around. But I would like to see them get guys that can contribute on either side of the ball, offense and or defense, keep them on the roster, and then maybe say, okay, you know what, Tate, you're pretty much only a kickoff guy for us, and we can improve elsewhere.
I mean, if you think about it, guys, this is the one part of their game as a team that's been missing, that X factor, that game changer on special teams. And I don't know what it is. For whatever reason, Marvin Lewis has been okay with the average play of Brandon Tate. Yes, he has had some big returns that have ultimately won games for the Bengals. But again, I want somebody that's going to get me on the edge of my seat. Like I want to look forward to punt returns. Whereas now I'm looking forward to punt returns. I shouldn't say looking forward to punt returns, but I get nervous on punt returns, which, which shouldn't be that way, Mickey.
Well, why do you get nervous though? I mean, that would be my argument that Tate shouldn't make you nervous. He doesn't fumble them.
He did in his first year when he was doing some out of characteristic stuff. Now, I will say this, in 2013, he was much better moving forward. Not the side-to-side crap, but moving forward. I will say he did get better this year. But again, I want somebody that opposing coordinators, opposing players fear. If they don't have that.
Agreed. But here's the other side of that, right? If your offense is good enough, I don't care if I put a guy that back there that signals a fair catch on every punt. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but you also want to switch the field position too. But I see what you're saying.
But in theory, Denver with Manning could put a guy just catch it, just signal a fair catch, and don't drop it, and we'll be fine. You know what I mean? So, yes, it's pretty. I mean, back to what we said about many things we've talked about on here. It's funny that we're nitpicking now. You know what I mean? This is a pretty good team, and we're finding the small pieces that could be better. I agree. You want someone back there that makes it exciting, that teams are punting out of bounds because they don't want to punt to them.
Exactly. That's what I want. And, and Anthony kind of touched on this. Brandon Tate fills a roster spot that it could go to somebody else that's on that bubble that the Bengals could really use. Are you telling me that Brandon Tate is so valuable that for punt returns and kick returns to take up that one spot? I mean, there are some pretty good guys, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball that roster spot could go to. You telling me you couldn't find another body to return kicks? You can't tell me Cedric Pierman can't be your kick return guy. It's not like he's got to return that many. He's taking a knee most of the time anyway.
Right, and the guys that you see kept on rosters that are primarily and maybe even only kick returners are guys that excel at that. And Brandon Tate does not excel at returning. So you have a guy like Trindon Holiday on Denver, who's an excellent return man. He doesn't really give you much anywhere else, but you keep a guy like that because he is so exciting in the return game. And
we saw
Tate
one this year with Cordarrelle Patterson from Minnesota, AC.
Right. And you know what? That's kudos to the Vikings because that's a first-round pick, and they didn't say, oh, we're so worried about him being injured. You know what they said? We want to win football games. Cordarrelle Patterson, returning kicks and returning punts, gives us the best chance to do that. And if he gets injured, yeah, it sucks. We look like idiots. But at the same time, how many great returns did that guy have all year? He was one of the best return men in the league, and he contributed on offense. So it's hard to justify the team keeping Tate when he's not a upper echelon return man that doesn't do stuff on offense. But if you're asking me now, I would not be surprised to see a mix and match. Maybe you have Kobe Hamilton returning kicks and Sonsenbacher on punts. Maybe Adam Jones is thrown in there, and Tate's looking for a job elsewhere.
Well, we all know my feelings about Brandon Tate.
Yes, we do.
Again, average. Solid is not the word that I would use to describe Brandon Tate personally. Again, like Mickey said, we are nitpicking here. Believe it or not, it is May, and there's a lot to discuss moving forward with this team. It's awesome that this is what we have to nitpick about. It could be a lot worse as Bengals fans.